Hello and welcome to the Homeless Consultants channel. My name is Paul B. I am the Homeless Consultant. And today I just want to say a few words about the big item in the news here around the August 16, 2021. The Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. Very rapid takeover of Afghanistan after the Americans left. You know, one thing I noticed yesterday here working at my job in Minnesota was that none of my coworkers were informed about this. None of them were concerned about it. None of them were thinking about it that I could tell. Just another news story to them. For those of you who are old enough to have been an adult, especially if you had been an adult for a while, 20 years ago when 9/11 happened, then you grew up in a United States that was very different than the United States we have today. You grew up in a United States of America that was fundamentally similar to the United States that all of your ancestors going back to the founding had lived in. It had gone through changes, it had Civil War, it had a lot of things, both good and bad, but it was fundamentally the same country. Remember Barack Obama saying we're fundamentally going to change America? And he did. When 9/11 happened, there were also fundamental changes. The concept of privacy went out the window. The security apparatus in America started looking at its own people, like a communist nation would do. Monitoring and stalking and spying on its own people. Everything in computer science started being geared toward invasions of privacy, surveillance. That went on in the background. A lot of you don't even realize it. The Patriot Act, huge legislation, just happened to be ready to go right after 9/11 happened. What a coincidence. Or do you think legislators can write a stack 6 feet tall of paper that quickly? There were a lot of strange things with 9/11. A lot of strange things. But the story goes, the government says, it was Osama bin Laden and his extremist Islamic thugs who hijacked planes, crashed them into buildings. We'll probably never know the real truth of exactly what happened there, but it doesn't really matter in this sense. Osama bin Laden was kept safe by the Taliban. The Taliban had taken over Afghanistan many years before, I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe during the Clinton administration. I could be wrong though. I'm not sitting here trying to blame Bill Clinton for that. It might have been the Bush administration, the first one. The first thing I remember about the Taliban taking over Afghanistan when it happened was that they went out to all those old ancient statues. Now granted, they're pagan statues of bogus religions, I don't like that, but as historical monuments and archaeological sites, they have significance to humanity. And the Taliban went out with rockets and blew them to smithereens. So their concept, I mean, that would be like the equivalent of taking over Egypt and immediately destroying the Sphinx and the pyramids. So the Taliban were not very good people in the first place. The people of Afghanistan did not have a good time under the Taliban. You know, Afghanistan, these poor people. When the United States got involved in the Vietnam War, which was a lost cause because we didn't fight it to win, it just killed off our people and traumatized a generation of soldiers. The Soviet Union basically did the same thing. They went to Afghanistan. But the thing is, nobody has ever beaten Afghanistan that I'm aware of throughout all of human history. Even Alexander the Great was turned around there. Nobody has beaten. A lot of it has to do with the terrain. It's not because of the people there necessarily. It's the terrain, and just it's a big dust bowl. It's a desert. It's not an ideal place for any army to fight. The Soviets got bogged down there, and it's one of the reasons the Soviet Union fell. It became such a huge expense over so many years of fighting this losing battle, but they couldn't lose face politically, so they stayed there. And doing stupid things like that in a political sense to try to save face is how you destroy your own country, which is what the Soviet Union did, along with so many other things in the 80s that Reagan did. And don't forget, the Soviet Union fell, but communism did not. After the Soviets finally had enough and pulled out of there, the Taliban took over Afghanistan. These are terrorists. They are among the worst terrorists you're going to find. ISIS is comparable to the Taliban. They blew up all the statues, oppress the people in ways that Americans just don't get. As you ride around in your convertibles and you call up the store to complain that there was a hole in your box when you bought a refrigerator, even though it didn't damage the refrigerator. Whatever first world problem you've got, for all those decades, those people in Afghanistan have lived lives of unimaginable misery and suffering. The Taliban gave safe harbor to Osama bin Laden and his thugs, which came out of Saudi Arabia. As the story goes, and as the truth may be, who's going to know? Who knows? The government story is that Osama bin Laden from there planned 9/11. Trained people, perhaps, in Afghanistan under the Taliban. So when 9/11 happened, one of the first things we did, almost immediately, was send our troops into Afghanistan to take down the Taliban. And that we did. We didn't get rid of them, but we took them down. We took them out of power. And we put another government in place there. But because the leadership in recent years doesn't know what they're doing. Because of that, there wasn't any foresight, there wasn't really an end goal. Now, in another sense, we did try to build them a military, to train them, to establish a legitimate government, and we did. They would say that Afghanistan, the biggest institution in Afghanistan, was its military. And in that sense, after 20 years, yes, the United States can't stay there forever, and we shouldn't. And even President Trump started to pull troops out of Afghanistan. We have to do that at some point. But Trump was doing it in a manner, how do I put it? He was doing it intelligently, let me put it that way. Get our troops out of there. Get them out of harm's way. Stop having the American taxpayer pay for this, for the nation of Afghanistan. In other words, make it a transition. Take our people out of there, but make sure that the government in Afghanistan can take care of itself and prevent the Taliban from taking over. And that's why Trump didn't take all of us out of there. After the election of 2020, where the United States of America ended, and this new banana republic we live in was created, and the first president of this banana republic, this geriatric, not even there, this senile old man who, by the way, the state of Minnesota elected to be the president of the United States. I mean, if you take away what happened in the election, if you take away all the skullduggery and the fact that it was a crime, a capital crime, what happened. It was the overthrow of a duly elected president. If you forget about that for a minute, the state of Minnesota actually voted for Biden. They, in the sense of a legitimate election, they say themselves there was no election fraud in Minnesota. These people in Minnesota actually wanted this old senile guy who likes to go up and sniff little girls all the time to be the president of the United States. They wanted him instead of Donald Trump. They wanted him. That's what they wanted. There was no charges of election fraud in Minnesota. The people of Minnesota, Minnesotans, the same people who have me in this situation here and don't get me out of it, wanted Joe Biden in office. And I put out a video early on around the time of the inauguration of the first president of the American Banana Republic, telling you what was going to happen. I'm not a crystal ball. I can't see the future, but you can just see the obvious in so many ways. By February, almost immediately, this old fogey wanted to just pull us out of Afghanistan. Just get us out of there. Now, believe me, I would love to get out of there. I don't want our soldiers over there. But we went there for a reason. Okay? It started with 9/11. We don't like waking up some morning on a Tuesday like today and finding out that someone has hijacked airplanes with hundreds of people on board, slammed them into buildings, killing all those people, killing people in the buildings on the ground, having the buildings themselves be destroyed. We don't like the terror of it. We don't like the loss of it. And for all those thousands of people who died, they have friends and family. The number of people who were directly affected by that, their lives were changed forever. Numbers probably in the tens of thousands. That's the kind of damage a nuclear weapon does, folks. That's why we went to Afghanistan, so that wouldn't happen again. By having one of the biggest and worst and most evil terrorist organizations in the world in control of a country that's a significant size, the size of the United States. Granted, it might be a desert, but it's big. Big countries are not easy to stop. People can hide in different places, especially when it's very mountainous. Remember, no one in history has really taken over Afghanistan before, for that reason. Well, this geriatric president of the Banana Republic just said, well, screw that, I just want to get our people out of there. So he pulls our people out of there, and almost immediately, within days in this gargantuan country, the Taliban goes in and starts taking over all these cities, surrounds the capital of Kabul, and in one day takes it over. So everything we did in the last 20 years, all the American soldiers who had their limbs blown off and were killed, all the families that were affected by that, all the money spent, all the weapons left behind for the Taliban to use, the American weapons that they now have over there, all that stuff is now in the hands of one of the very worst terrorist organizations the world has ever known. Again. This is who the people of Minnesota wanted to be the president of the United States. Now, he ended up being the president of a banana republic because the election was a sham. But either way, he's the, quote, leader of whatever this country is now. It isn't the United States of America. And that's the first point I'd like to make. If you're old enough to remember Vietnam, when we left Vietnam, we left in the exact same kind of shame as this. The embassy was the last to go. Helicopters landing on top of the embassy, and our people running and escaping, and the Vietnamese people, they're just clinging. Please take us with you. We don't want to die. We don't want to live under communism. Save us. And we just flee and abandon them after all those years we spent in Vietnam, all the money, all the lives lost, because we didn't fight the thing to win. It's one of the most shameful things in American history. And we just did it again. And we did it with a group of people who attacked us on our own soil 20 years ago, and who have, by their philosophy of life, are sworn to do so again and again and again and again. And the only thing we have to stop and protect us from that is the President and Vice President of the Banana Republic of America, who Minnesotans wanted to be the leaders of this nation. The same Minnesotans who did nothing to prevent me from becoming homeless when I asked for their help and asked them to do their jobs that they accept paychecks for, but they wouldn't do it. The same Minnesotans who have done nothing to help me get out of this. Right now, the rest of the world, particularly China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, particularly them, are looking at what just happened there, and they have as much as declared the end of the United States of America, as they call it, whatever you want to call this country today. It's a banana republic now, but the United States is no longer a world power. It's no longer legitimate. You can't trust them. They will come in and take over your country for 20 years and then just desert you, leave you to die, leave you to suffer. They have no power. They couldn't even take out the Taliban. How are they going to take out communist China that has a military on par with ours? Those countries, what just happened here, just gave the green light for all these countries to do what they have been wanting to do for decades, and they never could because the United States of America was strong. But the Banana Republic of America is weak. Our military is more concerned with making sure that men who think they're women are allowed to be a soldier and that they can carry a rainbow flag out there. That's what they're concerned with, while China is out there with men building a military that surpasses ours. And they're building it for a reason. China is already taking over parts of the South China Sea. In World War II, the entire Pacific War against Japan, very little of it was fought on Japan. We never really got to Japan. That's why we dropped the nuclear weapons there. We did some firebombing of Tokyo, but most of the Pacific War was spent capturing all these islands to get us anywhere near Japan. Those are the very islands that China is taking over right now. They're doing it politically, diplomatically, economically, but they are taking over control of all those islands. How many of your ancestors died in World War II in the Pacific War? Just island hopping, trying to get those. Midway, Iwo Jima, all these. China, the country whose philosophy says that if they don't control the entire world, there's no point to their existence as a political entity. Their political structure only makes any sense to them if they control the entire world. And that has been their goal from the beginning, under a very heavy-handed, ruthless, and violent communism that slaughters its own people wholesale. And their goal is to do it by the 100th anniversary of the revolution, which is coming up in a couple decades, folks. That country just got the green light from sleepy Joe Biden to do whatever they want over there. Because if we, after 20 years of being in Afghanistan, could not prevent the Taliban from taking over the country in one freaking day, what are we going to do to stop a major superpower house, nuclear armed, like China, from doing whatever it wants? And by the way, if you're in those islands in the South Pacific or the Pacific, if you're in those islands and you turn your head and you look toward where the sun rises, you look in that direction, and if you had really strong binoculars and you could see over the horizon, guess what you would see, folks? San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle. It's the west coast of the United States of America. Russia, who has been trying to take over the Middle East. Do you like the gas prices you're paying right now? I saw $3.09 here. When the last president of the United States of America, when he was overthrown, the gas prices they were still high, but they were about, what, $1.99? At one point they went down, I think, to almost $1.50. It's now twice that. Russia wants to take over the Middle East. They have no source of income. Their source of income from day one has been oil, natural gas. Well, Israel has thwarted them on the natural gas because Israel has more natural gas than anybody over there. More than all of them combined. And you know the countries that deal with oil. That's why Russia's in Syria. But Russia hasn't really been able to do everything it wants to do because a very strong United States of America would be there to stop them. They just got the green light to do whatever they want. Who's going to stop them? Joe Biden? Who's going to stop the nuclear armed powerhouse superpower of Russia? Iran is sworn to destroy the United States, the big Satan, and the little Satan of Israel. They are sworn to do so because they're insane. But you know what? Insane people can do a lot of damage. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed the nut job who goes in with a bag of guns and shoots up a school? Have you noticed that crazy people who are heavily armed are kind of dangerous? It isn't the arms that are dangerous, it's the nut job. Like the leadership of Iran, who just put in a president who, what's his nickname? Oh, what is it? The Butcher of Tehran. That's his nickname. That's their president now. Slaughtering their own people once again. They have nothing to worry about anymore. What are they going to worry about? Joe Biden? Kamala Harris? Is that what they're going to worry about? They were worried about Donald Trump. Every one of them. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, every one of them was worried about Trump. Because they knew they couldn't get away with nonsense like that. They've just been given a green light. They just watched the United States of America abandon an entire nation, such that the people were grabbing onto the airplanes as it took off into the sky and falling to their deaths off of the airplane. They're so desperate to get away. Already the Taliban, you can see the videos, the Taliban's out there pulling people out of their homes, shooting them dead and leaving their bodies in the street as a lesson to others. All the people who helped the American military over there, them and their families are the first ones to die. But there's going to be many, many, many more. Americans don't know what it's like to, well, again, while you're out there worried about, oh my gosh, I'm riding my bicycle with my little hat and my little cute glow-in-the-dark spandex clothes. Oh, that car got so close to me, I'm going to use my cam and I'm going to film him and put it on the internet because he's a bad person. Well, that's what these idiots are worried about in the United States. Afghans are worried about the Taliban busting into their homes in the middle of the night, pulling people out by their hair, raping their women and children right in front of them, and then shooting them dead in their front yard. Because that's what happens over there. Because the person who Minnesota wanted to be the president of the United States was the only thing to try to stop them. And you wonder why I'm living in a car in the state of Minnesota. By the way, another thing the Taliban's known for is child marriage. You got a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old girl. She's about to become your wife, or one of your wives. The magnitude of pain and suffering that has just descended on Afghanistan, Americans don't even comprehend. Remember what I said about my coworkers? They went through the entire day, instead of walking around in shock and thinking about the magnitude of what just happened, they just treat it like any other day. Just telling jokes about this, that, yada, yada, just blah, 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 blah. Just same old nonsense they talk about every day. Don't even comprehend it. Have no empathy whatsoever for what those people are about to go through. The nightmare, again, that they're about to go through. And what are we going to do? Are we going to ask Joe Biden to resign so we can get this absolutely unqualified loser, this Harris, to be the president of the United States? The one who slept her way to the top? Is that what we're supposed to do? Or should we let her go and go to the third in line for the presidency, Nancy Pelosi? Those are the three we have in line to lead this country right now. At the very moment when, thanks to the actions of the person who Minnesotans wanted to be president, we have now given the green light to China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia to do whatever they want in this world, and we're not going to stop them. And we can't stop them when we have a military who's too worried about how many colors are on their flag to actually learn how to fight. And that's obviously no disrespect to our soldiers. I love our military people. But the military establishment has become a joke. The Chinese are not out there teaching their people how to wear colorful clothes or how to get a sex change. That's not what their army's doing, folks. Their army, where they could get 200 million men, if they wanted to. 200 million. That's almost the population of the United States of America, just for their military. Well-armed, well-trained, trained to fight, not to train to whine and moan about how they're being oppressed. And oh my gosh, they said something that offended me. Oh, they didn't use my preferred personal pronoun. I'm going to file a lawsuit. That's not what those 200 million people they could field for an army in China are doing. They're out there learning how to fight. And if you look at their doctrine, the one nation they need to fight, and they will, is the one that you live in. The one that used to be called the United States of America. Because for them to fulfill their stated goals, especially on their schedule, the United States of America has to become under the control of China. And who's going to stop that? Joe Biden? Minnesotans who make such wise decisions in their voting? Who's going to stop them, folks? What just happened in Afghanistan is incredibly significant. You have no idea. The ripple effect from this is going to change the world. It's going to change the world in a way that what led to World War II, the same type of events that led to World War II, it's not going to be pretty. And the cleanup for this could take 100 years. And that's only if we ever get a superpower in this world again who is good. Is that Russia? No. Is that China? No. Is that North Korea? No. Is that a nuclear-armed Iran? No. The only country this world has ever really had that you could call good, and I don't mean perfect, they still do horrible things, but the only ones who really are looking to make the average person have a good life, to some extent, sort of, kind of, the British Empire, sort of, and particularly the United States of America, which no longer exists. Because our voting system has been destroyed, therefore there's no such thing as a legitimate election here ever again. Ever again. Can't have it ever again. Can't ever rely on it again. The media is too corrupt to make sure that we have legitimate elections ever again. So what you've got running this clown show out here in this banana republic now is what you're going to have going forward. Did I mention that the state of Minnesota, Minnesotans, voted for this guy to be, they wanted him to be the president of the legitimate United States of America when it existed. They wanted him to legitimately get more votes than Donald Trump, go in legitimately and be inaugurated as the legitimate next president of the United States of America. They wanted that. Now, they're okay with the fact that he just stole the thing and he became the first president of a banana republic. Doesn't matter. They just wanted him in charge. That's what Minnesotans wanted. And I'm stuck living in the middle of 5 million of these people. And you wonder why I sleep with both eyes open every night? Real early on in these videos, I warned you that the state of Minnesota can have an impact far beyond anything you can imagine. In the Midwest, there's nobody who voted for Joe Biden, folks. They didn't do it. Nobody was that dumb. You had these lunatic liberal states on the coasts who voted for whoever the Democrat candidate was. They didn't really care because they're not very smart. They're all concerned about political ideology, not the person or the qualifications or the competence, the leadership, the strength. They're not concerned with that. They're concerned about which party wins. And even if you get a Joe Biden or a Kamala Harris, if that's all you get is just nothing, no strength, no power, no capability at all, it doesn't matter. As long as they have a D after their name, that's all that matters. Yeah, on the coast they voted for that. But throughout the rest of the country where real people exist, people who have not gone totally insane, the only state that consistently always puts a Democrat in the White House is Minnesota. And I warned you that because this state is so incompetent, it is such a cult. Cults vote for a D or an R. They don't vote for the person. They vote for the ideology. That's what cults do. That's why Minnesota keeps voting for D. Even if D is clearly senile, insane, and incompetent, and corrupt to the core. I warned you early on in these videos, what the state of Minnesota is doing can have an impact on your life. They have representatives in the National Congress, senators and representatives. Those people make decisions that affect your life, whether you live in Arizona or Montana or Florida, it doesn't matter. But when you have a cult like this, they can make all the difference in the world. They wanted this clown in power, and they got him, and so did you. But what did he do with his power? Nothing. Sleep at the wheel. And before not even 6 months, 6 months into his administration of this new banana republic, the United States of America has now become probably the weakest nation in the world in terms of its power and influence to do anything. Unless we just go out and start dropping bombs and start being a bully to force China and Russia to listen to us again. We can never do it again by projecting real, true strength, because this guy blew it. It's over. It's done with. So you might as well start packing your bags right now, and you might want to go back to school and start learning how to speak Chinese. It's your best chance of survival in the future. It's not going to come tomorrow. It's not going to come next month. But folks, it's coming. And Minnesotans are not the only people you can thank for that. But the problem is, you can thank all of them, because this cult in Minnesota, the one that did this to me, has now done it to you. And if you're like my coworkers, you probably don't even realize it, do you? You'll find out, though. You'll find out.